and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about a holiday topic that is a little bit different, the impact on the holidays, particular for divorced families, blended families, and what that means for the kids and for the parents. My guest is parenting and family expert Alvean Lyons. Welcome.
Hey, Robin.
This is a topic that, hits home for me. I got to be honest. My parents were divorced. My kids, have the blended family thing going on. It's complicated. And you take that normal day to day, and then when the holidays hit, it's like, phew.
Magnified, completely magnified. Agreed. It is a tough time because it's that time traditionally that all of us like to have all of our people with us. Mm-hmm. We want all the kids home. We want to make sure that all the family's in place. All of the things that do not work well in terms of a blended family. Mm-hmm. I mean, the reality is that we have to share time in some way. And unfortunately, as much as we wish every divorce or separation could have been very amicable, it's not always that way.
That's right.
So sometimes there is a great deal of tension when it comes to those things because it's a bit of a tug of war. And trying to make that go a little bit smoother is one of the things that we all want to happen. I actually have an interesting blended family myself, not necessarily where my husband is concerned, but where our oldest daughter is concerned because she has a biological family in addition to us. So she was adopted into the family. And as a result, we think very carefully during the holidays about the importance of making her never feel like she has to choose between us, but rather that she has the power to choose herself. And whatever it is that's important to her because she's now a young adult, we try to make sure that that's what's important to us. And that's the thing that's tough as parents, because what we want is what we want.
Yes, that's true.
And that's not always what's in the best interest of our kids. Now, granted, there are special circumstances that we both have to admit to, where it may not be a healthy situation for a child to be in a different environment. And we have to deal with those unique experiences.
Right.
But in more situations than not, it's really more about how we divvy up the time. How are we going to carve up this cake? But the thing that I want us to be very aware of is that you don't want to carve up the kid.
I was just going to say that. You're carving the time, not the child.
Not
and I
the
think
child.
That's, it's a hard thing. It's a really difficult
But
thing.
it's something that we have to be very aware of because the kids always are the ones that suffer when adults are not able to be mature enough to set aside their personal desires and to put in front of that what the child needs. And what the child needs is to be able to have two environments, because we're talking about two different families, where that they know they're loved and that they're supported and that there are no consequences to loving the other side.
Right.
Because the other side is not the enemy. And sometimes when we're going through divorces, because we were enemies and we allowed things to get too contentious between us, we want to demonize the other parent. But what we have to be mindful of is that our kid is 50% of that other parent. So to that child, when we demonize the other side, what we're doing is demonizing 50% of ourselves. And when I say ourselves, I'm referring to how the child sees themselves.
Right.
You have to be mindful that that is something that's very difficult for them to separate. It's very hard for them to say, yes, I can be wonderful, but my dad or my mom is a complete jerk and is a loser, is useless, this, that, and the other. All of the horrible things that sometimes are said when we're angry. And when we're angry, we're not all very disciplined about what comes out of our mouth.
Really?
We all wish that we could be, but we're not always as disciplined as we want to be. But we've got to be careful about that and make sure that we go back and clarify that I apologize for what you might have heard me say. I'm just mad because I thought it should have gone this way and it didn't go this way. I wanted it to be this and it didn't go that way. But really, the truth is that you were the best thing that your father and I made, or your mother and I made. You are the total best part of each of us, is completely in you. So the stuff that we're dealing with is not stuff we gave to you in the gene pool. We're still holding on to those things. So do know that the yucky 50%, that's the part I have. The great 50%, that's the part you have. So you have to be very, very careful about that. And it's not, I mean, it's easier said than done. There's no question about it. I mean, we all want it to be flawless, and it just simply isn't. But the truth is that we have to be aware as the adults in the process that our kids are not capable of being able to make the distinctions that we so easily make. Because we can love our kids to pieces and to wholeness and totally not like their biological parent. But we have to make sure that
or
we don't,
step-parent or
whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have to make sure that that does not get in the mix in terms of what needs to happen where the kids are concerned.
And we don't want to make the kid make choices. I mean, yes,
No,
you have one
right.
who's approaching adulthood, and you do
Right.
begin to give more choice.
Absolutely.
But I mean, the thing I try to never do is make the child pick a parent. Or,
Absolutely.
You know, it's just a bad situation.
It really is. It's so tough on the kid because they always feel like they did something wrong. Mm-hmm. Because anybody who's hurt, anybody who's missing them, even if the hurt is just that I really wish I could be with you because I love you so much and I want your little face here or your big face here, whatever it may be. But like the kids always feel responsible for that. So it's very important that we don't lay that on their shoulders. The better way to do things is for us to get past our stuff as adults and have the conversation.
Yes.
Hey, if we're going to do every other Christmas is yours, every other Thanksgiving is mine, whatever it may be, so be it. But there is something that I think that is very important that sometimes we forget as families. It doesn't always have to be either or. Everything doesn't have to be either or. Sometimes it's and both. And what I mean by that is we have so many false dilemmas that suggest that one has to win and one has to lose. We have family that is all the way in LA. And during the holidays, we have to split up those times. One of the things that we decided 2 years ago was that just because you need to spend Christmas Day with the other set of grandparents does not mean that we can't see you during the Christmas holiday. So sometimes what we do is we alternate. You may be there Christmas Day, the next day you leave and you fly out. So we still get to spend 4 more days with you. So every single holiday has pictures of us all together, even though nobody ended up missing out on having each other, having each person present. But you may have open presents at different places at different times. It works out really well and surprisingly well, but it only works out when we as adults get past our stuff.
Well, and I think too, as a child of a divorce, you realize, I realized as a kid that the holiday doesn't necessarily matter as much on the calendar.
It's
the
true.
Holiday is about, the bigger picture, whether it's your birthday, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, so if you miss out on the Thanksgiving dinner, you have pie for breakfast the next day, or, you have a different tradition. If you're not with one parent on your actual birthday, you still get that. You get the party or the dinner or your special meal later, and it kind of spreads it out, It
does.
I get more birthdays than anybody else.
Have a birthday month.
Yeah. There are ways to look at it differently rather than the one contest over those, whatever hours.
It's true. And it's very smart to do it that way because it really does take away that negative power. And there is a lot of negative power that is present when we do the tug of war. Mm-hmm. And it ruins the holiday. It ruins the experience. Yeah. So the very thing that you were trying to create, is totally destroyed. It's totally destroyed because all we remember is the fight that happened or the silence, because the silence can be deafening. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we are shouting on the inside, but we're not saying it on the outside, but you can see it and you can feel it, thicker than pea soup. So you really want to make sure that you're working through those things in ways that that's not what's ruminating on the inside. That instead, I'm just excited that we are going to have this great holiday together. Whatever that may be, whether that's 2 days after the holiday, a week after the holiday, or we made it into a whole birthday month, whatever it may be, we are going to make this thing absolutely fantastic. And by doing that, it constantly gives back and constantly invests in the most positive things about being a family. And that's what we want to make sure we don't lose in the divorce and the blended experience, that we are still a family. And regardless of what the adults did, regardless of the fact that we may not, as adults, make a great team, we still can be great parents anyway. Mm-hmm. I don't have to be married to you to be a good partner in this process. Partnership is not about our romantic connection. Partnership is about the fact that we share principles that govern who we are. We both want the best for our child. And that may mean that sometimes I have to stuff what I want to do when I want to do it in order for it to best serve my kid. And the holidays is the time that it just makes it very evident, whatever it is that we didn't talk about during the course of the year. So having that discussion early, super important.
Well, the other thing I've noticed is you don't want to make the kid feel guilty either. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry you're not going to be there this holiday. I'll be thinking about you. That's a good way to do it. But what's not a good way to do it is, I'm going to be miserable sitting home alone crying. So you give yourself permission to say, all right, I don't have the kid on Thanksgiving. I'm alone on Thanksgiving. I'm going to, order pizza and have a movie marathon and do something different. So I'm not going to sit here and wallow in it and make the kid feel bad about it. I'm going to go and do my own thing, or do my thing with my new partner and have a completely different holiday experience.
Absolutely.
Build different traditions.
And I totally agree. And that creativity, personal creativity, really brings the power back as a parent also. Because sometimes we feel like all of our joy rests in what happens with our kids. But the truth is that an empty vessel has nothing to give to anybody. If you can't pour into yourself, and that may mean you plan your little vacation for the Thanksgiving when they're not going to be there. So you have, you have a great time to remember that you like you too. That you could be good company and a good friend to yourself. You could be a good partner to yourself. You can go enjoy some of your girlfriends or your guy friends that you haven't seen in years. But here's the time to do it, because you don't have your child at home or children at home this particular holiday. But you've turned it into something that was wonderful for you, something that you can share with your child. Hey, I had a great Thanksgiving. How was yours?
And you can let the child go. That's the other thing.
Absolutely.
Release them from responsibility for my feelings.
For my happiness.
Right.
Because that's the thing.
Job.
That's not, I love that you said that. That is not their job. We signed up for them. They actually didn't sign up for us. So it is not their job to make sure that we're happy. We want to raise them in such a way that they make the kinds of choices that really reinforce our happiness. Because certainly what happens to our kids does affect us as parents. I mean, they are literally, Elizabeth Stone says that to be a parent is to have your heart walk around outside of your body. And it really is such a beautiful thing, because that is very true. Like, there is such an enormous power that the love that we have for our children has. I mean, it really is our heart walking around. But when we make that their responsibility, that they are responsible then for our happiness and our joy, we have gotten things upside down. That's not their job. Their job is to be the best little people they can possibly be, and then eventually big people. But our job is to help them be that. And our joy is seeing them come into that fullness. But that is not, it's not for them to have to carry the weight of, well, my mom was so sad, she was all alone. It was just her and the cats,
Yeah, when you think about it, you know you don't want that. But in the moment,
because I'm going to guilt trip you into not wanting to see your other parent.
And it's, I'll say, it's also hard if the other parent is in that mode. It's hard not to compete. It's hard not to get down on that level and to stay up where you want to be and where, you want your kid to see. And you can't control the other one. You just have to be the best parent you can
possibly be. Absolutely.
Hope.
Well, the thing that sometimes we forget is that most people are attracted to positivity, and kids are the same way. If you are the wet blanket parent, do understand that I do what I have to do because I have to do it, but not because I want to do it. And what ends up happening over the development of the child, we refer to it as the parenting continuum. When your children are little, you're sort of the supervisor. We've talked about that before. Then you move to management. But when you move to consultant, when your children become young adults, they've moved from a place where they need you to a place where they want you. Well, what I want are the things that make me feel good. And I like being around people that are happy. That makes you feel good. When you're the wet blanket parent that is always trying to convince the child that in some way you disappointed me because you were there, even if I didn't say it, you can feel it. I'm withdrawing affection because you wanted to be over there. All of those things. Ultimately, what you do is by the time they hit that place in their lives, they will no longer choose to spend time with you, and you no longer have the power to force them to. So we want to make sure that when we're moving through this process, we have created an environment where our children no longer need us, they want us.
Right.
And the only way for them to want us is for us to be the kinds of people that they would choose as friends. And I don't mean that we ever change our parent role, but I am saying that because at a certain point you choose the people that you want in your life the way that you choose your friends. So if your friends are negative, that was on you. If your friends are positive, that was also on you. Good job. But when you develop your adult relationships with your parents because they become new relationships, you are then choosing what that looks like also. And if you're that parent that it's just tough for me to be around you because of the negativity and all of the guilt tripping that you do, the kids will not choose you. And ultimately, the very thing you want, you will be pushing out of your life inadvertently.
Right.
So we have to be very aware of making sure. It's not that we have to be fake about our emotions. You know, you could admit that I miss you like crazy.
Absolutely.
And I totally wish you were here. I would rather spend any minute of my day with you than with anybody else. But Mommy's a likable person, so I went and I hung out with my friends. And we had a great time.
Have a good time.
Right, and I hope you have a great time.
Absolutely.
Because they may not even be thrilled about going to see the other parent. So you may have to encourage them to make the best out of that. So there are multiple dynamics that are present all the time. But the truth is, much like we've talked about before about choosing our perspective, we want to make sure that we're as positive as we possibly can be. Because positivity creates an attractive environment for your kid, and it's also a supportive environment when they have to step away from you.
Right, and they get the self-confidence to know they're okay and you're okay.
Absolutely.
And they don't have to try to be
we're
that.
okay.
Right, absolutely.
Right. Agreed.
Okay, so we're going to go through the holidays juggling.
Absolutely. Because that's what comes with it. Absolutely.
We get good at that. But juggling, being positive, looking for the best, and relieving the child of the pressures as much as possible.
The unnecessary weight. We don't want that for our kids. The truth is that there's always going to be a gravity, that negativity that exists in life, that our kids are constantly growing against. We want to give them the stuff that makes that possible. We can't be the gravity in their life. We want, quite literally, to be anti-gravity for them, the thing that makes them lift up above all things. And that is very, very connected to the way in which we approach this experience. And where blended families and divorces are concerned, we have to approach it in a way that says that, you know what, I'm mature enough to care more about what it is that is good for you than what I want for me. And ultimately, it creates a very different environment for your kids to experience some of the best parts of life. The holidays and the celebrations, those are great.
They are great.
But we don't want to steal that from them.
Sometimes the two families might be, I know the producer, Wube, was talking about different cultural experiences.
Absolutely.
Different, having a great time wherever you are. And that's an important gift to give your
Absolutely. And take the positive away from all of that, because your life is a collection of the memories you choose to hold on to.
Right.
So pull the positive out of as much as you can, because it makes for a very different life experience.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and thank you for watching. I hope that you will enjoy the holidays in whatever family configuration you have, whether it's time alone, or whether it's time with your kids, or whether it is you're one of those rare families that can all get back together for the holidays and survive and thrive. So, happy holidays.